Not to disrespect anyone who's ever made a video prior to about NI, but NI is usually represented in a very scientific way, and it ignores the human aspect of it. What I mean is that those videos typically just explains how NI operates, but doesn't tell you how it affects the user. Those videos don't talk about how NI DOMs feel time distortion. Those videos don't talk about how difficult it is for an NI DOM to grasp reality sometimes. Those videos also don't talk about how when an NI DOM sees a vision, it's more real than reality. In the Myers-Briggs, for an NI DOM, the INTJ and the INFJ, we are our minds first and then our bodies second. Sometimes it really feels like we're this astral spirit that just inhibits this cadaver from time to time just to engage with the world. And without a second's notice, sometimes we return to the land of NI and then view humanity in a very omniscient view. Sometimes for an NI DOM, it doesn't feel like we belong to this world, belong to this reality, to this simulation. We just play our part. We just try to act human. And then there's the other side of NI, the more poetic side of NI, the NI that people describe as being the mastermind. But in those discussions, the depth of NI is lost. The poetry around NI is lost. The explanation is filled with words, but the stanza has lost its meaning. Sometimes I wish I could project externally the world that my NI has created, the world that NI has envisioned. How peaceful it is, how full of life it is, how vibrant with color the world NI has created for me is. And that's exactly what this video is going to go over. There are already plenty of videos out there that explains how NI operates in the realm of typology. Those videos are way more eloquent. Those videos are way more academic. Those videos break down NI in a very scientific lens. This video will instead go over how NI affects our daily lives. All the positive that NI brings, and all the lonely nights that it leads to. Some of the examples that I'm going to provide is a little bit more abstract. You have to understand that's how NI operates. NI is very difficult to explain because at the core of it, NI is just our imagination. And how does a person explain our imagination? But not to discredit NI too much, it is our imagination based off of the information that we have already received from this world of ours, this reality that we live in. Imagine if there are infinite realities all happening simultaneously, all at once. NI is able to explore every single one of those realities and determine based off the information that we were given which of those realities will be the most likely outcome. That's why NI users always ask for clarity to narrow down which reality that we're heading towards. But NI doesn't stop there. NI is able to engage every other likely possible outcome if only one variable was different. That's why it's so easy for a dominant NI user to engage with someone who is dominant NE, because we're still able to engage with all realities. That's why NI users, when we talk about the future, we talk in absolutes. Because not only are we able to see what the most likely outcome is, we're able to pivot based off of the variables that we're given. Because again, if only one variable is different, it leads to a different outcome. So when you hear an NI DOM say that something is most likely to happen, it's because we Infinity Wars Doctor Strange the shit out of all the data that we were given, and this is the most likely outcome. And sometimes we can't explain ourselves. So we just respond with saying, we just know that this is going to happen. What's actually happening in our head is that we're doing series of questionings, and it's all happening instantly. If this, then that. But we have to consider this. So then this. But then if this, then that. But we have to consider this. So this. That line of questioning happens multiple times instantly for an NI user until we arrive to no more buts and we just arrive to appear this. The sensory way of explaining what's going on in our head is that we're looking for the most likely outcome. But to an NI user, what it feels like is that we're shifting through every single possible realities. Again, because if one variable was different, then this is the most likely outcome, the most likely reality to happen. NI users are naturally doing Schrodinger's cat experiment. And for those of you who aren't familiar, it's a thought experiment for quantum physics. I'm not an expert on the topic of quantum physics. And guys, I got a C in physics in college. But the high level summary is that there's a cat in a box, and in the box there's a vial of poison that could break any moment. And when that vial of poison breaks, the cat is unalive. Because the vial of poison can break at any moment, that means that the cat is both alive and not alive at the exact same time unless we open the box and physically see the state of the cat. That's what NI DOMs naturally do in reality. We know that this is the most likely outcome. But if we change one tiny variable, then this is the most likely outcome. But then again, we're so aware that there's so many variables out there that we don't have access to, therefore, multiple realities are just as likely to happen. That's why NI-DOMs ask so many questions. For clarity, so that we can minimize the amount of randomness to happen, so that we can pinpoint the most likely outcome, the most likely reality that will happen if we continue this path. Essentially, NI is trying to figure out when to open a box to choose the fate of the cat. And I want to emphasize the last sentence. NI is trying to reduce randomness so we can choose the fate of the cat. This is honestly why I hate the term masterminds for INTJs. And talking shit about the title mastermind is actually my very first video that I posted on YouTube. So we don't have the ability to build a new future. We just have the ability of foresight so that we can build towards a already predefined future. We already established that an NI-DOM can live in multiple realities simultaneously and understand the most likely reality that we're heading towards based off the variables that we can affect. I hope you guys understand what that means. Why do you think INTJs are able to accomplish so much in their lifetime, in addition to accomplishing tasks that most people believe are out of reach? Why do you think that when people talk to an INFJ about their problem, that they feel like the INFJ can actually help them fix their problem to make them feel better? In a very simplified sense, the NI-DOM can alter reality towards a desired outcome. And the reason why we're able to do this is because we're able to perceive a few steps ahead, to view a likely outcome that most people are unaware of, that they can't see. So we get the ability to choose the future for you. And guys, I know that I might be making this sound way more cooler than it really is, but in all honesty, this is how NI works. In the physical world, it's very easy to see how NI affects things. The physical world is very tangible, the sensory world. What that means is that the NI-DOM can simply just put something in plain sight for a person to see that can influence them to do something. But then there's the mental side of it, and it's perfectly demonstrated by the movie Inception by Christopher Nolan, my favorite INTJ director. The movie Inception goes over the ability to incept an idea to someone so that they feel like they reach that conclusion based off of a personal epiphany. Because basic human instinct is that if you feel like you thought of a thought, you're more likely to go towards that thought. So NI-DOMs would do this purposefully, but make it seem as if it's a coincidence. Because based off of what we know about this reality and future realities, if we adjust these variables ever so slightly, you will most likely think a certain thought, or it will adjust your line of reasoning to head towards a certain thought. Because the NI-DOMs have determined that these are the variables that we need to adjust to get a person to think a certain way, or for them to adjust their way of thinking so that they get towards a desired outcome that we want. I think it's a no-brainer that it doesn't always work. There are usually way more variables out there that we can't foresee that will affect the outcome of whatever we're trying to get. But that doesn't mean we're not going to try. And in an essence, it is a form of manipulation. And it can either be used for good or more sinister reasons. Two famous INFJs come to mind when I think about this, and I'm only talking about their legacy and not who they were when they were alive and all the unethical BS that they went through. And I use for good, you have Gandhi. And I use for bad, you have Hitler. But don't forget that humans are naturally complex and we have more than one cognitive function. So don't think that NIs are constantly doing this. We're only doing this whenever we want a specific outcome. Most of the time, we can't engage with this function unless we actually put effort into it. Now let's go over how NI affects the self. I already mentioned this before. NI is our greatest asset and also causes the most pain. As an NI-DOM, I can imagine such a pure reality. And then I pass by 10 homeless people just going to the corner store. As an NI-DOM, I can see all the potential of every single person that I meet. And then I come back to reality and there are people who just refuse to put any effort into anything that they want to do. For the INTJ, sometimes we get into our NI-FI loop, our form of depression, where we can see multiple outcomes that can and most likely will happen if we adjust these variables. But we just don't know how we feel about each outcome, and it leaves us paralyzed. For an INFJ, when they're in their NITI loop, they can see all these possible outcomes, but they never feel like they have enough information or the correct data in order for them to make a move. This is why it's so difficult for NI-DOMs to live in the moment unless we're intoxicated with some type of drugs or alcohol. It's because our mind is always telling us what could be. Sometimes time and reality doesn't exist for an NI-DOM. 3 days could pass by where we're just chilling in a room with no contact with the outside world, and it would just feel like one day has passed. We could be so focused on whatever topic that we're thinking about, and it's dinner time now, We skip lunch and it feels like we just ate breakfast. We could be walking down the street passing by a million people but not remembering a single face. We can have someone we know stand right in front of us, and until that person says something, we didn't recognize them. We can sit in a park for 30 minutes, and when someone asks us what's going on around us, we can't tell you a single thing. We can just get on a subway or a bus and we're 10 stops away from our destination, and then the next moment we just missed our stop because we lost track of time. We can be eating at the same restaurant multiple times and not remember the name or remember what we ate every single time we went there. And the funny thing is, if we're eating at home and we're working on a project, we can just start eating at one moment and then all of a sudden we're on our last bite and not remember whether we enjoyed the food. Do you really want to know how it feels to have NI? The best way to describe what it feels like to have NI is that it's lonely. And I'm not going to say this is only specific to NI DOMs because I feel like NE DOMs feel the exact same way too. So the ENTPs and ENFPs. Because you have to think of it this way. If you're a feeling DOM, then people can either empathize with you or at minimum sympathize with what you're going through. If you're a thinking DOM, people can look at the data with you or at least look at past achievements with you. If you're a sensing DOM, then people can either engage with you in the moment or live in the past with you. But as an intuitive DOM, how can someone connect with you with your imagination? The best way to connect with an intuitive DOM is honestly just to listen, because there's no way for anyone to understand what you're going through. That's why to people, it always seems like intuitive DOMs are always off in our own little world. It's because we are. We can't turn it off. We can't help it. That's why people laugh at us all the time or say we're overthinking whenever we speak our mind. That's why people call us crazy. And I absolutely hate that word, because people that use the term crazy are the type of people who refuse to try to understand where the other person is coming from. We're not crazy. You just refuse to try to understand us. Intuition doesn't live in this world, which brings me back to one of the things I said earlier on in this video. If the mind of the intuitive is just as real, if not more so, than the sensory, do we actually live in this world, or are we just visiting? There are days where I wish I wasn't an INTJ. There are days where I wish I could be any other type and live in the moment. But then I remember the reality that my mind has created for me. The reality that feels like reverie, a place that's so pure and aligns with everything that I stand for. A place that I'm hoping to grab in my mind and drag it into this reality. And then NI feels the gentle embrace of the rest of the INTJ cognitive functions, TE, FI, and SE. And they remind NI that they're all in this together, that they won't stop until they make NI's dream a reality. And at that specific moment is the birthplace of an INTJ's greatness. The INTJ is going to accomplish what's needed to bring their dream to reality. And it's only a matter of time. And that's all for this video, ladies and gentlemen. I know I was jumping between different perspectives throughout the video, but honestly, that's just how NI works. There's not really a single entity that we work off of. We're able to see multiple points of every different whatever that we're thinking about or talking about. I'm going to be following this video with other INTJ cognitive functions, and let me know in the comments below whether you guys want me to talk about other functions as well. I might not be able to get as in-depth as this video, but I can try my best. And don't forget, if you haven't yet, please like, comment, and subscribe to support this channel. I really do appreciate all the support that I'm getting, and I really do enjoy making these videos. As always, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate the support. Bye.